now. As we speak, the Prime Minister is in London. His plane touched down there a little while ago. Couldn't land in Cornwall, where the leaders of the G7 are, because of fog. I love it how these problems exist. But the Prime Minister is there with the leaders of the G7, really the wokest G7 you've ever seen in your life, and it's going to be really important he takes Australian values to whatever tables he is invited to sit at. And the point here is, for the Prime Minister, there's a few choices, because politics is binary. It's not just left and right. It's not just, say, blue and red. It's not just right and wrong or freedom and control, but it's also about this conflict between principles and pragmatism. Principles before politics, or is it politics before principles? This is kind of the battle for a lot of people in public life these days. And we, the people, we're pretty confused. I mean, just who do you believe? Who do you trust? And is government more worried about the power they're actually taking from you and me than the power and the freedom, rather, that you and I actually have? Look, this is not a new dilemma. In fact, if you go back to the eloquence of the 1859 novel by Charles Dickens, A Tale of Two Cities, the conflict between Paris and London, the conflicts in Paris and London, he said it was the best of times. It was the worst of times. It was the age of wisdom. It was the age of foolishness. It was the epoch of belief. It was the epoch of incredulity. It was the season of light. It was the season of darkness. It was the spring of hope. It was the winter of despair. You know, in a lot of ways, Charles Dickens could well have been writing today. Because after all, if we don't know who we are and what we actually stand for, then we are going to be completely lost coming out of this global pandemic, especially if we don't actually question the malarkey of misinformation from the various political classes around the world and the international elites. And in many ways right now, we really don't have a clue. Well, certainly our leaders don't. And frankly, we don't know who to believe, because so many of them just get so many things just so wrong, which is why values and principles are so important, which is why I talk about it on this program every week. And yet they seem to be absent from so many in the political class these days. And I was always told, if you stand for nothing, you'll fall for absolutely everything. I was also told by a very wise political type that if you're never prepared to lose, then you're probably never prepared to actually stand for things. And if you stand on principle, you need to know that you may well lose more than you'll win, but it does sustain you. I know, because politics now is dominated by too many who believe winning is what it's all about. And they lampoon those with principles, in fact, quite happily crawl over them just to get to the top. I think we, the people, are much, much poorer for it. Politicians, government bureaucracies, the procedures they have show that they don't trust us. They tax us more, they have more rules and regulations, because if they trusted us, there wouldn't be so many laws, so many fees, and so many things that they want us to do. They're actually designed to restrict us, aren't they? They plan our lives. They want to control our basic freedoms, and too many in politics are forgetting lessons from history. They seem to jump at the cause célèbre, the issue du jour, rather than build a long-term vision based on principles. So be it climate change or coronavirus, too many politicians are just so easily distracted, looking for a photo opportunity rather than an opportunity to stand on principle. And they, I think, are easily fooled by the loud voices, the false prophets and the Hollywood headlines. In many ways, those threatening us from Beijing actually know us better than we realise. They know how easy it is to distract us. And the most effective thing that's ever been made in China, this bioweapon called COVID, it stopped our freedom, it stopped our economy, it stopped our interactions with others, it's caused political paralysis worldwide, and it's been more effective in destroying the Western world than climate change, that rubbish they were going on with for decades. But of course, climate change is the secondary weapon. It's sitting there waiting to be rejuvenated if they need it. It's working to change our world, and a lot of this is on the G7 agenda. No one can tell us when we're actually going to get our freedoms back, when we're going to get on with the principled plan to build our Australian economy, our Australian nation, for the next generation to enjoy. Instead, too many of our current pollies are bequeathing an economy and a society that they'll need to endure, not to enjoy. The best of times, the worst of times, the narrative written by Dickens all those years ago certainly applies to today. Keen to know what you think. Hashtag Hardgrave if you want to send me a tweet. You can also write to me directly, gary.hardgrave@skynews.com.au.